6 Signs of the Stupid Man. A Stoic perspective on self-mastery. There is a pervasive blindness in the world, one that clouds our judgment and drags us into destructive patterns. In our daily lives, we encounter individuals, often ourselves, who seem to walk in a haze, stumbling through decisions and allowing the whims of emotion to dictate their actions. These are the signs of the stupid man, and the Stoics were among the first to observe and elucidate these flaws in human nature. Stoicism, with its timeless focus on self-control and resilience, calls us to rise above these follies and embrace the disciplined path of wisdom and virtue. As we tread the path of life, it becomes clear that our most significant adversary is not the world around us, but the tempest within. This tempest is fed by the mind, the very source of our triumphs and our downfalls. The Stoic philosophy offers us tools of reason, self-reflection, and emotional regulation to face this adversary. Yet for many, these tools remain dormant, and we see the signs of the stupid man emerge in behavior that is destructive, fleeting, and misaligned with nature. Today, let us explore 6 such signs, the hallmarks of the stupid man, and reflect on the ways we too might fall victim to these patterns. The man who is governed by emotions. The first and most obvious sign of the stupid man is his complete subjugation to his emotions. He is a slave to his passions: anger, fear, envy, lust. These are the tyrants that rule his mind, his body, and his actions. He reacts to life as though it were a storm, powerless in the face of the winds that blow through him. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, wrote extensively about the dangers of letting emotions dictate our lives. He likened uncontrolled emotions to a ship caught in a violent storm, helpless, tossed about by forces it cannot control. A man who has not learned to master his emotions, Seneca says, is a man who will never find peace, for he is always at war with himself. The Stoic approach, by contrast, is to recognize that while emotions may arise, they are not to be followed blindly. We are not to suppress them, but to acknowledge them, understand their roots, and then act from a place of reason. In a world where emotions are often seen as authentic expressions of self, the Stoic remains calm, knowing that true strength lies not in acting out of impulse, but in taking a moment to reflect and respond in alignment with virtue. The stupid man is ruled by his emotions. The Stoic man instead governs them with rationality and self-awareness. 2. The man who seeks validation from others. Another sign of the stupid man is his incessant need for validation from others. He lives in constant pursuit of praise and approval. His worth is tied to the fleeting judgments of those around him. He lives by the whims of external forces, allowing the opinions of others to dictate his self-worth. This is a man who does not know himself, who places his identity in the hands of those who, at best, understand him only superficially. The Stoics, on the other hand, teach us to anchor our self-worth not in external validation, but in internal virtue. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wrote in his Meditations that a wise man seeks neither praise nor blame from others. What matters, he teaches, is to act in accordance with nature and reason. The opinions of others are beyond our control and thus should not be the measure of our happiness or success. The stupid man craves approval. The Stoic man seeks only to act justly, regardless of the opinions of others. In the Stoic view, a life lived in pursuit of external validation is a life not truly lived. It is a life dictated by others, not by one's own values. 3. The man who fears change. A third sign of the stupid man is his fear of change. He clings to the present, fearing what the future may bring and mourning what the past has taken away. He is like a man holding on to a dying ember, terrified of the wind that might blow it out. Change to him is a monster to be avoided, and stability is his fragile idol. Yet we are told by the Stoics that change is the very essence of life. Heraclitus, one of the early pre-Socratic philosophers and a source of inspiration for Stoicism, famously wrote that everything flows, emphasizing that nothing in life remains static. The Stoic man understands that change is inevitable. Indeed, it is essential for growth. It is not the change itself that brings misery, but our resistance to it. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic teachers, reminds us that we should not concern ourselves with things beyond our control, change being one of those things. Instead of fearing it, we must learn to embrace change and adapt, understanding that what is lost in one moment may be gained in another. The stupid man fears change. The Stoic man welcomes it as an opportunity for growth and wisdom. To resist the flow of life is to deny the very nature of existence. the man who avoids responsibility. The fourth sign of the stupid man is his tendency to avoid responsibility. He shifts blame, points fingers, and seeks excuses. Rather than owning his actions and the consequences that come with them, he seeks the comfort of inaction and the false peace of avoidance. To him, responsibility is a burden to be shrugged off, not a virtue to be embraced. Contrast this with the Stoic perspective, which places responsibility at the core of personal growth. To be a Stoic is to take full ownership of one's life, our actions, our thoughts, and our responses to external events. This is the path of self-mastery, the path of wisdom. In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The Stoic knows that we cannot control the world around us, but we can control how we respond to it. And in that response lies the true measure of our character. The stupid man avoids responsibility. The Stoic man embraces it, understanding that it is only through responsibility that we can transcend our limitations and grow into our true potential. The man who does not reflect. The fifth sign of the stupid man is his lack of introspection. He lives on the surface, rarely pausing to examine his thoughts, emotions, or actions. His life is a whirlwind of reactions, with no time taken to understand the deeper currents that guide his behavior. He is oblivious to his own flaws, his own desires, and the nature of his suffering. In contrast, the Stoic man practices constant self-reflection. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that each day we should take time to examine our thoughts and actions to ensure that we are living in alignment with virtue. It is through this reflection that we uncover the areas in which we must improve, and in this process, we grow wiser. The stupid man lacks introspection. The Stoic man engages in daily reflection, constantly striving to align himself with wisdom and virtue. 6. The man who lives without purpose. Finally, the stupid man is the one who lives without purpose. His days are spent in idle pursuit, driven by distractions and hollow pleasures. He has no guiding principle, no sense of higher purpose to steer him forward. His life is like a leaf blown by the wind, directionless, adrift, and meaningless. The Stoic man, however, lives with a clear purpose: to live in accordance with nature, to cultivate virtue, and to serve the common good. Stoicism teaches that our purpose is not to chase pleasure or to avoid pain, but to strive for wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. By living in alignment with these virtues, we find meaning and fulfillment, not through external accomplishments, but through the cultivation of a noble character. The stupid man lives without purpose. The Stoic man knows that the pursuit of virtue is the highest purpose of all. The path of the Stoic, a call to resilience. Let us pause for a moment and reflect on the deeper currents that bind all these signs together, the common thread that runs through them. Each of the 6 signs of the stupid man reflects a lack of self-mastery, a failure to govern one's internal state. The emotions that govern us, the validation we seek, the fear of change, the avoidance of responsibility, the absence of introspection, and the purposelessness of our actions, they all stem from a single root: an inability to align oneself with nature, reason, and virtue. In our most vulnerable moments, it is easy to fall into these patterns. We are surrounded by distractions, expectations, and the relentless pull of external forces. The world around us often encourages indulgence, fleeting pleasures, and the pursuit of superficial success. It is a world where quick fixes, shallow accolades, and the avoidance of discomfort are often seen as the keys to happiness. But the Stoic rejects these illusions. The true Stoic, by contrast, understands that happiness and fulfillment are not found in externalities, but within. The Stoics offer us a radical philosophy, a philosophy of inner strength. To be Stoic is to acknowledge that we cannot control the world around us, nor can we control the events that unfold. But what we can control, what we have absolute dominion over, is our response to those events. It is the ability to choose how we will react to the world and how we will engage with our own inner turmoil. This is the essence of self-mastery. Seneca, in his letters, often speaks of the importance of focusing on what we can control. He writes, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality," reminding us that our emotional suffering is often rooted in our perception of events rather than the events themselves. By reframing our perceptions, by seeing life through the lens of Stoic wisdom, we begin to see that much of our distress is unnecessary. Our suffering arises when we fail to distinguish between what is within our control and what is not. In this realization, the Stoic finds freedom. True freedom is not in the absence of external constraints, but in the ability to remain steadfast and composed regardless of those constraints. This is the core teaching of Epictetus, whose most famous work, the Enchiridion, teaches us that the only thing truly in our control is our own will. Everything else, wealth, status, the opinions of others, can be taken away from us. But the way we respond to those changes is ours to choose. The moment we understand this, we realize that no external force can dictate our peace of mind, our joy, or our sense of fulfillment. To live as a Stoic, then, is not to live a life devoid of emotion or joy. It is to live a life grounded in resilience. Resilience that comes not from fighting against life's inevitable challenges, but from embracing them and learning to respond with virtue. When we embrace the teachings of the Stoics, we find that our greatest strength lies in the moments where we are tested. It is in these moments that we have the opportunity to cultivate courage, patience, and wisdom. The practice of self-control, a lifelong journey. Let us now turn to the importance of self-control, for this lies at the heart of the Stoics' way of life. Without self-control, all of the other virtues that the Stoics espouse, wisdom, justice, and temperance, become empty words void of substance. Self-control is the gateway to living a virtuous life, for it is only through mastering our impulses, desires, and emotions that we can make rational decisions in accordance with our highest values. The stupid man is driven by immediate gratification. He seeks pleasure in the moment, but this pleasure is fleeting, hollow, and ultimately destructive. The Stoic man, by contrast, understands that true joy does not lie in indulgence, but in the quiet satisfaction that comes from acting in accordance with one's principles. As Epictetus teaches us, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. The Stoics' self-control is not a denial of desires, but a redirection of those desires toward higher, more meaningful ends. It is important to note that self-control is not an innate quality. It is cultivated over time through consistent practice and deliberate effort. Like a muscle, it grows stronger with use. This is why Stoic philosophers encourage us to develop daily practices of reflection, mindfulness, and discipline. In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." By continuously practicing self-reflection, the Stoic is able to recognize moments of weakness and temptation before they take hold. Through mindfulness, we become more aware of the impulses that arise within us, be it the desire to seek validation from others, the impulse to avoid responsibility, or the temptation to indulge in fleeting pleasures. In these moments, the Stoic pauses and reflects, asking, what is the virtuous response? What is in my control? How can I respond in a way that aligns with my highest values? This practice of self-reflection, of constantly checking in with ourselves, is not an easy one. It requires humility, honesty, and courage. The stupid man avoids self-reflection, for it forces him to confront the uncomfortable truths about his behavior, his desires, and his motivations. The Stoic man, on the other hand, embraces this discomfort, understanding that it is only through such discomfort that growth can occur. The power of purpose, living a life aligned with virtue. The Stoic philosophy teaches that the ultimate purpose of life is to live in accordance with virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. These four cardinal virtues are the foundation of the Stoic worldview and the guiding principles by which the Stoic aims to live. By living a life rooted in these virtues, we align ourselves with nature and our true purpose. It is often said that a man who lives without purpose is like a ship without a rudder, drifting aimlessly in a vast ocean. The stupid man, lacking a clear purpose, is swept along by the currents of external circumstances, his decisions dictated by the whims of fate, fear, and desire. His life is reactive rather than proactive. It is not directed by reason, but by impulse. The Stoic man, by contrast, has a clear sense of purpose, a purpose that is not dictated by external forces, but by an internal commitment to live virtuously. Each action, each decision, is guided by this purpose. As Seneca writes in On the Shortness of Life, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. The Stoic man understands the preciousness of time and uses it wisely, living each day with intention and purpose. This sense of purpose is not just a lofty ideal, but a practical guide for everyday life. The Stoic does not wait for the world to grant him meaning. He creates meaning through his actions. Whether in moments of joy or moments of suffering, the Stoic remains steadfast, knowing that his purpose is to cultivate virtue in all circumstances. By doing so, he finds a deep sense of fulfillment, a fulfillment that transcends the fleeting pleasures and distractions of the world. The path to wisdom, embracing the journey. journey. Finally, we must recognize that the path of Stoicism is not one of perfection. It is the path of continuous growth and learning. The Stoic knows that wisdom is not a destination, but a journey. There will be moments of failure, moments of doubt, moments when we fall short of our ideals. But it is in these moments that we must recommit ourselves to the practice of virtue, using each setback as an opportunity to learn and grow. In the words of Epictetus, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The Stoic journey is one of constant self-examination and self-improvement. It is a path marked by resilience, reflection, and a commitment to living in harmony with nature. And while the road may be long and fraught with challenges, it is a road worth traveling because it leads not to fleeting satisfaction, but to lasting peace. Conclusion: transcending the signs of the stupid man. In closing, we recognize that the 6 signs of the stupid man are not merely flaws in others. They are potential pitfalls for each of us. We must all face the temptation to be governed by emotion, to seek validation, to fear change, to avoid responsibility, to neglect introspection, and to live without purpose. But the Stoic calls us to transcend these weaknesses. The path of Stoicism is not one of denial or suppression. It is a path of mastery. It is the path of reason over passion, responsibility over avoidance, purpose over aimlessness. Through the practice of Stoic principles, we can learn to navigate the storms of life with grace, clarity, and strength. Let us then not fall prey to the signs of the stupid man. Let us instead strive to embody the virtues of the Stoic: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. For in these virtues we find not only self-mastery, but the key to a life well lived. If this message awakens something inside you, like, follow, and subscribe.